I have never, and I mean quite literally never, seen so many comments from you guys about a modification that I should make on my truck. So today, we're gonna do exactly what you guys requested. Oh yeah, check it out. Plus, we're also going to install what's in this box too. And with so many other new parts on this truck lately, like my Cali Rays LED rock sliders, my new method wheels, higher clearance steel rear ARB bumper, and now this, the off-road trail pipe, which, when installed, will replace part of my stock exhaust, I've been itching to get it back on the dirt. Oh, there's the hitch. We've been spending so much time indoors working on the truck and not enough time outdoors actually playing with it, which is kind of the whole point. So I'm going to Cleghorn today to put my new parts to use. Also, shout out to Onyx Off-Road for sponsoring this video. I have tracked this exact route on Onyx a million times before. I even have a track from a couple weeks ago because I do love to run this trail a lot. But the reason I especially love Onyx is because I can check out a trail report. I'm coming from San Diego, so I wanted to make sure the trail was open. I can kind of see what everybody was saying, and also you could see how crowded it was. People report that as well. The last time I ran this trail was in my 2002 Tacoma, and it basically had, you know, no roof. So this is going to be a vastly different experience. So there's more info about Onyx in the description, including a discount, but more about it later on in the video because first, we need to get back into the garage to finish our Tacoma projects. So the two parts I'm installing today are genuine, which means they're made by Toyota. So it kind of makes you wonder, are we really gonna get that much of a difference here? Well, I don't know, but we're about to find out. So this right here is the genuine Toyota Tacoma Off-Road Trail Pipe for 2024 Tacomas and up. Essentially, it's just an axle dump exhaust tip that's going to replace the rear section of my stock exhaust. The catalytic converters and muffler all stay the same, so what it's essentially replacing is the tailpipe section that routes over the axle to the back of the truck for much better clearance. This exact part actually comes stock on the Tacoma Trailhunter, but oddly not on the TRD Off-Roads or the TRD Pro. But anyways, let's take a closer look. So you can see this is the stock exhaust setup, and we're actually gonna follow it. But essentially you can see it comes right up and over the diff and then connects up here to our muffler. This thing hangs so low, like literally 14 inches to the ground versus the new clearance that we're gonna get now that I've got my ARB bumper on, like 22 inches. I even have this silly black chrome exhaust tip on it, but I'm pretty sure that's because on the very first trail I didn't do too much damage, but I at least kissed the ground with this thing. I have this rear section off now, and I literally just noticed, I know this is not major or anything, but the bottom side of this exhaust tip looks like I've touched a rock or something with it. After I install this, yes, as a consequence, we're going to get a better departure angle and more clearance, but with a shorter exhaust path and less muffling, I am expecting a different sound. This is the current sound outside of the truck, but I'll play some comparison clips once I get this installed. Do I think this thing is going to make this truck sound like my Gen 3 Tacoma? Absolutely not. But my main goal is clearance and not getting it smashed off-road here, but I am curious on the sound it's going to produce once I have it installed. I also plan to open up the sound on the other side of the spectrum with what's in this box. You can probably already tell what it is by the name on the box. But this is the TRD Performance Engine Air Filter, a washable, oiled cotton medium filter. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm always a little bit cautious when it comes to these washable engine air filters because While I like them in concept because I think it's great that, you know, you don't have to buy a new paper filter every single time, you can just wash and reuse this. In practice, I have found that they're actually a little bit difficult to keep clean, maintain properly, even on regular maintenance intervals. But Toyota actually sent this one to me and told me I should try it out on this truck because it has a turbo. You know, I'm not expecting any huge, drastic performance gains, maybe at most 1 or 2 horsepower on the dyno, but we'll see, like with the high clearance trail pipe, if we hear a difference. And I promise I'm gonna be fully honest with you guys whether I like this filter or not. All right, so now on to the install of the Tacoma Off-Road Trail Pipe. Obviously, first up, we have to remove the rear section of the stock exhaust. Thankfully, there is no cutting. You can see there's just 2 bolts we need. So here's all the tools I plan on using. Thankfully, not too much. I would say the only thing is I did buy a pair of exhaust hanger removal pliers. I've never removed an exhaust before, so first time owning one of these, but hopefully it'll come handy in the future. Not too expensive. Some WD-40 is gonna help remove the stock exhaust from the hanger. And then also we need a 14mm socket to take off the nut so that we can put this new trail pipe on. I'm gonna start getting to work here. Obviously, you want to make sure your exhaust isn't hot while you're working on it, so let the truck sit for a little bit if you've just been driving. Okay, so step 1 is going to be to remove these 2 nuts. So there's one on this side, one on the other side, and you need a long socket for it. There's one. And our other. Now I'm gonna take my WD-40 and spray some on the hanger. Just loosen everything up. Now I'm just gonna take my hanger removal tool, put it around like so. Kind of wedge this guy out. All right, he's loose from this end. Then on this end, I just need to remove the hanger. That was easy. Now, time to fish this rear section out. But after some investigation, followed by some trial and error from trying to remove it from both ends, I chose to work smarter, not harder. The tricky thing is getting it over the axle and clearing the panhard bar and spare tires. So by raising the suspension, you gain a lot more clearance. One difference I didn't think about now also is the weight, and not that this is super heavy to begin with, but this is certainly much lighter. Now finishing this out should be relatively easy, relatively straightforward. So first gonna just put the hanger in. Then I'm gonna just take my 2 14mm nuts, tighten everything down. That's it. So now that this is off and the new off-road trail pipe is on, let's do our sound test. not hear too much of a difference, and I think that rings true even in person, but I can hear a slight difference. By ending the exhaust before the rear axle, you shorten the overall length of the exhaust system. That means there's less tubing for sound waves to travel through, less muffling, and less resonance cancellation. The result is this very subtle, throatier, more aggressive note, especially when you're actually under throttle. And before we hit the trail, I'm going to swap out my paper engine air filter with the TRD Performance one. Still pretty clean for 10,000 miles. So here's the old filter and the new TRD one. Theoretically, you don't have to buy a new filter like you would with a paper one with this on. As long as you clean and re-oil it properly, it's cost effective. Now in my experience, keeping them clean and oiling them properly is more tricky than you might think. I have one that lasted about 50,000 miles in my Gen 3 before I went back to paper. But again, Toyota told me I should try out the TRD filter on this truck because I might realize a difference. Now we're ready. I lied. The last thing I want to do before we hit the trail is install this 4122 hitch slider. So you can see this just installs in our hitch right over here and provides us with a surface to slide on, kind of like a skid plate. And with the Tacoma, you need to use this provided longer tow hitch locking pin. This should come in the glove box of your truck. Another no-brainer install today that also ended up being paramount during my Cleghorn run. Now, Cleghorn Ridge is a very popular trail here in SoCal right off the 15 freeway. I'll leave a link to it on Onyx where you can see the difficulty and trail conditions and pictures and all of that fun stuff if you ever decide to check it out. Plus, Onyx now has this new dispersed camping layer. I downloaded the offline map before heading out so you can see on my screen all of that yellow shading along the road indicates that dispersed camping is allowed there. This trail is very highly trafficked, so I don't necessarily recommend camping on this specific one, but it is a great new feature if you're into overlanding or if you're a few times a year truck camping person like me who isn't seasoned to know where I can sleep for the night everywhere. But again, I mainly use Onyx Off-Road for trail conditions and trail ratings. Cleghorn is a 3 out of 10 in difficulty, which I can say is pretty accurate. You can totally run the main trail in a stock Tacoma, but there are offshoots if you want to have more fun. Last time I was up on this trail, I met this group of like 5 guys who were all each driving Mavericks, which was really dope to see. Some of them were modded out with bigger tires and everything, and some of them were like stocks. And then we literally saw a stock Range Rover coming up this trail, and we haven't seen any other cars. So that's why I like it. The fire road's really easy, but then you can kind of just like pick and choose what offshoots you want to go on. And the views, I can't get over some of these views. So like coming up here from San Diego and driving on the highway, especially when I was going uphill, you know, I don't hear too much of a sound difference, especially from inside the cab. I mean, this whole thing is actually really well insulated, but when you open the windows a little bit, and I don't want to do it too much because I don't want to get dust in the car, I definitely can hear the turbo like spool a little bit louder compared to before. And I think that's definitely not from the Off-Road Trail Pipe exhaust mod that we did, because again, like the catalytic converters, the resonator, the muffler, all that stayed the same. I think the difference there is from the air filter, the TRD Performance air filter, letting more airflow into the engine. And I could be wrong about this, but I heard a rumor that there's synthetic noise through the speakers in the cab, so who knows, but I definitely hear a real difference from the turbo, so that's cool. Now, one question I feel like you guys might wonder is if heat soak is a problem. The gases now exit earlier, so I could see why this is a concern. First off, I feel like OEM wouldn't sell it if that were a problem, but also the gases are already cooling once they've left the catalytic converter, so I think the difference is negligible, but I don't plan on idling for hours in tall, dry grass where the exhaust dumps anytime soon. So this is a two-way trail, but I started from the 15 highway side, hitting a few offshoots along the way. And if I'm being honest, this first one made me a little nervous because the fear of high centering is always there.
Oh, that was like way easier than I thought.
But the one I should have been really worried about was this next one.
Oh, there's the hitch.
The top is easier, but all you see is sky. I tried two different lines. The first one, pretty sure these are my KO3s. I put my left tire over here, but you could see this is from, I think, my tow hook dragging and then my hitch also sliding. Just because I didn't want my right tire to fall into this hole. I know it doesn't look that big on camera, but you could see a couple people, I don't know if these are from front bumpers, but have scraped on this rock over here. Still hit the hitch and the tow hook, so then the second line, put my left tire over here, and I think this is where my hitch hit and my rear bumper a little bit. So this side was much lower to the ground. Got the hitch skid hit a little bit. That's okay, that's what it's there for. And then a little bit on the rear bumper, it looks like too. A lot of this is just dust, but it looks like, yep, right here. That was from the second line I took. I think the first one was better. And then also my ARB tow hook. Looks like I'm gonna have to repaint this red. But you know, my exhaust used to be right here, so happy we did the off-road trail pipe mod. She is all good. So I may have come home with some minor battle scars, but I actually had to turn around here because, long story short, I've been having some really weird 4x4 and alignment issues on this truck every time I wheel, and I'm gonna make a whole video about it soon. But basically, it really started to happen in my 160-mile Onyx off-road rugged adventure video if you want some more context, but I had to cut this run shorter than I wanted, especially knowing that I still had 2 hours to drive back home. So again, update coming soon once I figure out what is going on. But anyways, I'm still stoked on the new accessories for this truck because they definitely came in handy today. For about $150 for the off-road trail pipe and a relatively straightforward install at home, yeah, I'd say this was worth it. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!